What's causing you to eat despite your best efforts? I'll discuss that coming up next. Don't switch that channel. Hello and welcome. I'm Naomi, the Healthy Habits Coach with NaomiRios.com, your premier source for best practices on brain, body, and balance. And in this channel, it is my goal for you to be able to transform fitness into wellness through habits, balance, and discipline. So today I wanted to discuss what's going on with your overeating. It happens to all of us, but there is a reason behind it, and I'm discussing that in today's workshop. Coming up. Imagine that you just won the lottery.
I wouldn't be here.
That'll be soon.
$10 million.
I wouldn't be here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Imagine that you just had the most delicious brownie that you have ever had in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Delicious.
Okay.
Come on,
I
Kristen.
wasn't sure if it was which one it
Come
was.
on.
They said you would bring the food.
And imagine that the person that you most like in the world really is that much into you. So all of those things, all of those rewards have something to do with what is called neurotransmitters. They give you a dopamine or a serotonin hit, right? So the same thing actually happens when we overeat. We actually get those serotonin and the dopamine hits. And there's an actual scientific name for this. It is called hedonic hyperphagia, which is basically where you just overconsume even when you're not actually hungry, or even past the point of discomfort, and you still are more hungry and you just keep on eating, right? This has actually happened, this has actually contributed to the worldwide obesity rate. And it's not just here in the United States where you hear that often, it's just here. No, it's happening all over. So when we take this into consideration, one of the first things that we tend to do is we stop feeling the feelings and we emotionally overeat, right? So if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling happy, if you're however which way, normally you even see moms doing it, where if the kid starts acting up or they start crying, they start getting fussy, then they'll give them something to eat, right? So we've kind of been trained ever since we were kids that if we have a bad emotion, we eat, right? And scientists have actually figured out that there are usually some triggers that happen before, during, and after that make us overeat, right? So I'll be handing out to you via email a PDF that you can actually fill out where you can see what your behaviors are before, during, and after to kind of get you into where your mind is before you start that process. But one of the things that you can do, or a few, is express those feelings, go to a therapist, take a walk, etc. But usually what happens is when we're not feeling the feels, or we're just eating just mindlessly, is we tend to gain a little weight, right? We just talked about the obesity rates. So the usual advice when we start gaining weight and we want to lose weight is eat less, exercise more, right? And usually when we are told this, we still don't want to give up the foods that we love. So we tend to supplement them with things that we find on the shelf, like Fiber One bars. Remember I talked about that brownie? Usually what you're told is, it doesn't matter the source of the calories. A calorie is just a calorie. So it doesn't matter the influx of calories that you're bringing in, so long as you burn them, right? But is that really true? Do you guys think that's true?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the science behind you can't eat just one. Remember that commercial from Lay's? You can't eat just one? They weren't kidding. Actually, we had one of the girls here that said, oh, Lay's, they're my thing. The moment I start eating one, I just keep on going, right? So one of the things that we used to do when we were in just plain old nature, we had to go out and hunt and forage for our food, right? So in the process, we were exercising while we were crouching, walking, running, and trying to gather our food, right? We don't really do that now, do we? We have a store. If you're chasing after the brownie. So we don't really do that as much anymore. We have stores in every corner,
Right.
and they're conveniently shelved foods, which have helped us in our generation because we've just gotten busier, which means that we don't really have the energy to get home, have a home cooked meal. So we tend to go to the store, grab whatever's on the shelf, and eat it, right? And the thing with that is that back then we only had 3 basic tastes, and they each had an actual meaning to them. So sweet, as in like a fruit, a butternut squash, was energy. A fatty one was more like where you can actually eat and it can satiate you for hours. And then we had our salty foods, which we needed for our fluid retention, right? We need sodium in our body to keep us hydrated. Those neurotransmitters helped us back then to kind of realize, okay, wait, I ate this food, I'm rewarded, I feel good, and you repeated that behavior. What happens now is that those foods that we eat off the shelf are scientifically engineered to make you crave more.
Right.
They make you crave more. And once they are sucked dry of the fiber, they are replaced with the sugar. They're replaced with a cottonseed oil, vegetable oils, MSG, sugar, red dye number 41. So they're replaced with all of that stuff that will help you to continue to eat. So what we used to have, the neurotransmitters telling you this is what you're gonna eat, those still exist in our days. They still reward us, but now they're hypersensitized because those foods are hyper palatable. So let's talk a little bit about hormones, because I told you guys that hormones will actually dictate everything. And this works the same for men as it does for women. But we're gonna talk about 4 of them today, starting with insulin, because insulin is the big kahuna. Like, it's the one that regulates absolutely everything. So it regulates our blood sugar, our cell growth, our replenishment. It aids with reproductive function. If you've ever seen some people that want to get pregnant and they can't because they're really overweight, that's because of the insulin. If you have chronically spiked insulin levels, it disrupts everything else. It will actually disrupt and damage your pancreas, your liver, your brain. It causes Alzheimer's, dementia. So if your insulin level is always elevated, it turns everything else out of whack. And that leads us to leptin. The leptin hormone is responsible for hunger and body fat stores. So basically how that works is if your insulin is off, your blood sugars are really spiked. So leptin is actually telling you you're hungrier. I had one of the girls here today tell me, well, I had some orange juice this morning, I had some toast, and I had a banana. Well, all of that turns into sugar if it's not already sugar, right? So if your insulin level's up, you're also gonna get hungrier. And your body fat is gonna stay put. Because what happens is that your body fat, your body's telling you, okay, if I'm hungry, it means my body fat stores are lower, so I need to eat more. So it throws it off. Again, insulin, the big kahuna. Which leads us to glucagon. So glucagon helps us to tap into previously stored fat. So again, insulin, if it's chronically elevated, glucagon is not going to do its function the way it's supposed to. Okay? It's going to keep the fat on your body because it's basically saying, oh, wait, remember, your body, all it wants to do is make you live. Hormones are there to keep a balance. So if insulin is off, leptin follows, glucagon follows, and glucagon is thinking, well, she's eating more food, but it's not really food, is it? It's nutrient deficient. You're not getting the nutrients that you need. And hasn't it happened to you guys before that sometimes you eat all of this frankenfood to the point that you become physically ill? Like, it's just like, I can't stop eating it. But towards the end of it, you're still hungry. You actually are still physically hungry, even though you're physically sick from all the eating. And cortisol regulates the stress in the body. Okay, cortisol, again, if you have a high level of insulin, this also comes out of whack. Now you might be thinking, well, is sugar really that bad? Like, is it really that bad? I love sugar, everyone loves sugar, right? Think of this. Think about when you have a piece of fruit in comparison to a candy bar. What tastes sweeter? The candy, right? Isn't the candy the chocolate? Exactly. The candy bar usually tastes sweeter. Again, because they're hyper palatable. They have been scientifically designed to be excessively sweet. So, with that in mind, let's discuss a little bit about sugar. There have been several studies that will tell you that sugar is more addictive than cocaine, 8 times more addictive than cocaine. Yeah. Another study.
It's like crack.
And another study. It is like crack. It
But it's
sure is
legal.
like crack, but it's legal. This study in particular, it was really interesting to me because it talked about 43 rats that were already cocaine addicted. And they were given the option within a 15-day period to either keep on going at the cocaine or drink some sugar water. And 40 out of the 43 rats chose the sugar water. So it shows us that we are more inclined to have more sugar. And again, one of you girls said it's legal. So that's what we tend to gravitate. And haven't you ever had something that you just deprived yourself of because no, it's not good for me, and when you finally had it, you just feel like, oh, so good. Yes. Right? And this is another study that they concocted, that they saw. If you took into consideration the rats, when they finally got their hit, after a long withdrawal of not having sugar, they went through the same things that an addict does. They went through the withdrawal when they were taken off the sugar, and they went through the binging, the craving, and some of them even subbed alcohol for the sugar. Right? So it's one addiction turns in for the other, right? So why does this matter? If you're not familiar with big food refers to the industrial giants that basically produce all of this frankenfood, all the food that you see on the shelves. So big food, if you remember, there was a time, and there still are some people that still believe you have to do fat-free or you have to do low-fat because fat is the one that's killing us. But what happens when you remove the fat from a food? Doesn't it taste kind of gross? So it has to be replenished with sugar because I have to make you eat the food that I'm selling somehow, right? And that'll tell you on the label. On the label, it will actually tell you fat-free food, heart healthy, right? Low cholesterol food, right? So what they're doing is that with that product label, they're selling you on their product. It's marketing. It's basically what it is. But if you look at the ingredients list, it's completely different than what they're actually marketing before. You'll also get a PDF of this presentation, of course. Now, who is watching out for your best interest? These big food giants have partnered with several physicians. This was just one example. There were too many to list, but this was just one example. What they tend to do is they will give them a grant so that they can do research, and then that research, they'll give it to the consumer. Now, if I am Coca-Cola and I give you money to do research, are you going to say anything against Coca-Cola? No. Why would you? I gave you money, and I might sue you if you actually do. But what about the USDA? Can I trust the USDA? You know, it's
Nope.
right now the USDA right this second is thinking about cutting out the research of the USDA, a $26 million budget cut. So just keep that in mind. It's up to you to check what is on those food labels and what it is that you're eating. What about dietetics and nutrition? If you're gonna go to a nutritionist, maybe I can go to a nutritionist. Well, guess what? Their sponsors, they're behind a lot of the big food stuff. So again, it's up to you to check what it is that you're putting into your body. This is not new. If you look at all of this sugar stuff, these are ads from the 1950s. And if you look at this one in particular, is actually telling you about adding sugar to baby food. And if you think, well, this was in the 1950s, this doesn't really happen in our time, right? Well, guess what? It happens. It happens. And not only is it just this, I just, highlighted the vegetable oil and the polydextrose and blah, blah, blah. That is sugar. But as you can see, it has a whole bunch of other junk in it as well. So think about that the next time that you're buying food for your nephew, your niece, your kid. It has all that sugar. So I want to end with a brief experiment. The next time you go to the grocery store, I want you to take a moment to look at certain products on the shelf, especially the ones that look a little inoffensive, like maybe vegetable broth or chicken broth, and look at the back, at the ingredients. Don't look at the packaging, because again, the packaging is marketing. Look at the ingredients. If it has any form of these names right here, it's sugar. And it was really hard for me actually trying to find chicken broth. So,
But chicken broth isn't that high in sodium?
it's not high in sodium, but remember, we also need a little bit of salt to retain fluid. So sodium is really not the enemy. So again, you need to be the new sheriff in town. Don't eat your feelings. Remember that your hormones regulate every single thing in your body. If your hormones are off, if your insulin is off, so will everything else, so will be your hunger. Real food is always going to be your best option. So if it rots really quickly, that's the one that you want to be eating. Not something that's going to stay in your shelf forever and ever and ever. Food labels, again, make sure you read the ingredients. Always read the ingredients. Sugar addiction is real. It is 8 times more addicting than cocaine. Always remember that. And of course, practice eating a vegetable for every franken food you eat.
You said something last time. Whatever God made, eat it. Whatever man
What
made,
God
leave
made, eat it. If man made it, leave it. Mhm. So you always want to take those things into consideration when you're eating. Next week, we're going to be discussing about how to lose the pounds. Because some of you have expressed that is your main concern. How do I eat? How do I exercise in order to be able to lose weight, in order to lose those extra 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 pounds, etc.? We'll be discussing that next week. So I hope to see you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And she's like, I have questions.
You guys have any questions for me?
I have a question.
Yes.
Who sponsors you? If Big
No one
Food doing
sponsors me.
everything else, you just
I
fight the
sponsor
power?
me. You know, that's a good question, actually.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the research that has come to fruition now that you say, okay, well, that makes sense, it's actually self-funded.
Right.
So you have a lot of doctors that are having to hustle
Right.
to be able to gather funds from here, from there, almost like a fundraiser, where they can actually run their own research.
Yep.
Because they're not funded by big food.
Can you give me a look at your, when you get a chance, with the next question, can you give a look at your background?
I had one was suffering through inflammation, really crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Stanford goes, because my doctor wanted to give me all this medicine, all these different pills. He said, all you have to do is watch what you eat, and watch you'll drop those carbs, lose that weight. Inflammation has left my
Yep.
legs. I mean, it's like, wow, I was to the point where my legs were like swollen like this, and I couldn't walk. My hands and stuff, I have one last nodule left. All these were on my hands because they're like tightened up like that. This was all through sugar. And I know I'm an
Remember,
addict. Oh my goodness. And our stuff, our crack is right. You go to a gas station.
Yep.
And it's right in front of you.
Yes, it
You don't
is.
have to go far from
Yes,
it.
it is.
It's right there.
and it's right eye level for the
Eye
kids
level
to see.
for you to see.
The kids to see too. So if you come into the gas station with your kids are like, but I want candy, even if they weren't thinking about it. And you're on the keto diet. So I want to mention as far as keto is concerned, keto's high fat.
High fat.
Remember are you ever like extremely hungry on keto?
Oh yeah.
Are you?
It happened. No, it just happened like when I first started.
Right.
Now I'm on my third
Right.
month. So
Right.
now.
But fat is actually satiating.
Right.
So if you don't want to go on keto, that's fine.
Right.
But
yeah.
always remember that fat is not the enemy.
No, it's not.
I love avocados. I love.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bacon. Yes, I have bacon almost every morning.
And
Like
beef
of course
bacon is the bomb.
bacon is awesome.
like this
She eats
class.
pork bacon.
I eat pork bacon.
Oh, you do? I
Yeah.
eat bacon and avocado and eggs. It's like, oh my
So we can
goodness.
get some fat bacon, some bacon.
Can you give a little bit about your background?
Well,
Because you're doing a presentation and I know
Yes.
some people don't know your background.
no problem. I am a certified personal trainer. I am a certified corrective exercise specialist, which basically means that I train you so that you do not get injured. A lot of people are prone to injuries. So for example, injuries in the shoulders usually are the first to go. So I train you so that if I see any muscle imbalance while you're actually working out, we work on those so that you don't put more stress on them while you're working out. And a certified nutrition coach. So yes, and I've been doing this. I've always loved fitness and nutrition, but I think I've gone heavy on the nutrition because we've seen that anybody can work out. You know, we can all work out. We can go on the treadmill, grab a dumbbell, get on the weights. But the truth is, if your nutrition isn't in check, it doesn't matter how much you work out. Yeah. So I really like the science behind the nutrition. I really like knowing how my body works to be able to make it function optimally. It's not to say that I don't enjoy brownie here and there. We all do. But if you're chronically elevating your insulin levels, then that's where the problem is.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, guys. If you have any questions at all regarding this workshop, regarding what we talked about, let me know in the question box below and I'll answer you as soon as I can. Remember, guys, whatever you endeavor to do, especially in fitness and in wellness, do it one habit at a time. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.